a situation where we are engaged in several conflict zones around the world. As it is, if you book onto a long haul flight these days, you'll find that your flight takes a lot longer because they can't go directly from A to B. They had to fly around and a kind of a circular route in order to get to your destination because of the conflict zones, the battle areas, if you like, war zones, and all that is happening, and still civil aviation has to deal with it, and all forms. It's not just holidaymakers that have been affected. This is also cargo, business travel. In fact, all forms of aviation are affected by this.
OK, Julian Bray, aviation security expert, thank you for your time this morning on this developing story. Well, we have some more breaking news to bring you this morning because 1,155 small boat migrants have arrived since yesterday morning. Well,
GB News can reveal that more than 32,182 migrants have crossed the Channel so far this year. That compares to 24,335 who crossed at the same point last year.
Now, official Home Office figures released this morning showed that over 1,072 migrants arrived illegally on 13 small boats yesterday. GB News can reveal that another 83 arrived into Dover at 6 a.m. this morning. That's the vision we were just showing you on your screen there.
Well, with us now is former Minister for Legal Migration, Tom Pursglove. Now, Tom, I imagine that you're going to say that this is all the government's fault. The government is doing a very bad job of it. But when you tried to implement the Rwanda policy, it just didn't work. Is there any way of tackling this issue without drastic measures like leaving the ECHR?
Look, I think that it's all well and good ministers saying that they're going to do whatever is necessary, but it's now deeds that matter, and the words just are not standing up to scrutiny. You look at this scheme, and what we've seen, exactly as you described, 1,000 arrivals yesterday and 3 people removed in the opposite direction over recent days. That is no deterrent. And so what ministers should be doing is looking at those laws that you mentioned, for example, the ECHR, looking at the Refugee Convention, looking at the trafficking conventions, and doing whatever is necessary to allow us to protect our borders. And I also just think the time has come. You've got all of that accommodation in Kigali. Let's use it. Let's send people to Rwanda. The Rwandan government have indicated that they would be willing to have a conversation about this with the future reform government. Our position as a Conservative Party is that we should revisit this. I think it's time that the new Home Secretary showed some mettle and did precisely that too.
Tom Pursglove, obviously a lot of focus is now going to turn to that one-in, one-out deal. Do you think the government now needs to take on more deterrent actions to deal with this problem? Some people in the opposition saying that the government needs to swallow their pride and relaunch the Rwanda scheme and launch a stronger deterrent, because they were seeing even more crossings this morning, 83 coming over. The current process just isn't working.
That's exactly right, Charlie. And the magnitude of the problem is absorbed, it's overwhelmed, in fact, by the scale of the numbers arriving versus the number of people that they can remove in the one-in, one-out. They're talking about sending 50 people a week back to France, and also receiving in the other direction people who come from a legal route from France. I actually think that that could make the situation worse, because unlike before, where people making those crossings and making those journeys to get to France would also be undertaking dangerous illegal journeys to get there, we're actually now encouraging them to do that on the off chance that they can get in the lottery to come to the UK legally. So I think that actually the scheme itself could make this problem a whole lot worse. What we've got to have is a meaningful deterrent that allows us to be able to effectively detain and relocate every last arrival that crosses the Channel in a small boat. Because until you do that, you are always going to have a market for these criminal gangs to exploit. There will always be people who will think that the odds are good enough to be able to pay their money and to come. And actually, they've got a point, haven't they? Because when you look at the fact that we've sent 3 people to France over the course of the last 3 or 4 days, and 1,000 arrived yesterday, if you look at that, you've just got such a good chance of being able to stay. That cannot continue. You have to break that model.
Well, absolutely. The model has to be broken, and reform seems to have a pretty clear, if perhaps overambitious, plan to tackle this. Why should people who are worried about illegal immigration vote for the Conservatives rather than reform? They seem to have a much clearer policy offering.
Well, I support so much of what the reform policy offer looks like on this, and I would argue that an awful lot of that reflects the work that I was doing in government that was beginning to turn the tide on this, and that this government undid. For example, looking at the accommodation picture, looking at those military sites, this government closed a number of those. They rode back the Rwanda scheme, scrapped that on day one with much glee and delight. I think that that was a big mistake, as well as not making use of the legal changes to try and aid removals. For example, the one-stop shop that actually in the context of their one in, one out policy would help them to be able to remove people. So I think there is a lot there to be welcomed in reforms policy, but I know that what Kemi wants to do is to have a really carefully calibrated response to this issue. I understand that there will be more said about this at conference. And look, I'm really clear about this. People like Robert Jenrick have been really clear about this. I think we have to be willing to do whatever is necessary with our laws. As I mentioned before, the Refugee Convention, the ECHR, the Trafficking Conventions, because you just cannot have a situation where the UK can't control its borders. And
okay,
ultimately,
former Minister for Legal Migration, Tom Purcell, we've got to leave it there. Tom, as you say, we can't be in a situation where we can't control our borders. And Olivia, you know, Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, she has said that she's now willing to apply visa penalties, perhaps to countries that don't deal with them on deportation. So certainly using stronger language.
Oh, absolutely. Mahmood seems much more serious about it. I think just important to note there, no criticism at all of reform from Tom Purcell there. In fact, he was saying that what reform is saying chimes very closely with what he was planning. I think Tom Purcell might be one to watch on the defection board.
We'll see about that. Well, speaking of a different political party, it's the Lib Dem conference getting underway in Bournemouth today, and Sir Ed Davey has made a pledge, similar to Reform, to stop the boat. They want to take on that party as the Lib Dems double down on immigration policy. Well,
elsewhere in politics, Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle has warned that the House of Commons is at risk from foreign actors after charges against two men accused of spying for China were dropped.
Well, joining us now is the political consultant, Laura Emily Dunn. Emily, great to see you this morning. Thank you very much for coming in. What do you make of this Lib Dem charge on reform with regards to the illegal immigration crisis?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously they're pitch rolling today, their conference, we'll see what they set out. I think one of the things that they're saying is kind of adopt the Nightingale Centre model that we had in COVID, so somewhere where people can go and be processed, for example. That obviously comes at a cost. I don't think that's been costed out. But also, I think they've been floating ideas about, you know, putting migrants into sort of military, disused military barracks. Obviously, that comes at a cost too, and those would have to be outfitted. So I think a lot of it is kind of, you know, pie in the sky, perhaps, but it'd be interesting to see what detail that they set out over the next couple of days.
I was following the Lib Dems around on the campaign trail during the election, and to find a costed policy from the Lib Dems is tricky for a needle in a haystack, yes. But on the Lib Dems, I mean, I think it's very interesting that the Lib Dems, really quite left-wing party, particularly under Ed Davey. They're not sort of classical liberals. They are really to the left. But even they are saying they need a plan to sort of stop the boats. What does that say about the changing concerns of British people? Do you think Britain as a whole is moving to the right?
I think slightly. I think people have had enough, haven't they? I think, you know, we've seen the narrative over the summer. They want action. It's not happening from the government. Perhaps they'll be looking to other parties to do that. Perhaps the Lib Dems are not the natural home to do that. But I think they know that they need to tap into this narrative and the concerns that people are feeling. I think I read some polling earlier that actually immigration is not the #1 issue for their voter base. It's interesting that they're sort of pivoting to that over these first few days of their conference.
Maybe not for their voter base, but for the entire country it certainly is. They've got to bring in new voters, especially as this country sort of is splitting itself up in terms of the voting intentions map. And it's interesting, isn't it, to sort of hear them using stronger language than a government that is, for all intents and purposes, taking on really strong policy proposals, visa penalties we were just discussing for countries like Nigeria, India, Pakistan. I mean, a lot of people here calling for migrant camps, processing centres and disused military sites, and think that's the sort of stuff that the Conservatives were criticised for when they were in power trying to deal with this issue.
Yeah, I think people just want to see something being done, don't they? They want to see some fresh ideas, some real action. So it'd be interesting, like I said, to see how they plot that out today. And hopefully no gimmicks attached to it. We'll find out, won't we?
I mean, the Lib Dems, What is their place now in British politics? It feels as though British politics is fracturing in so many different directions. You've got the left breaking up into, the Green Party is gaining popularity. They're a proud populist party. The Lib Dems won a lot of seats, actually, at the general election, 72 seats, so many more than Reform that we're talking about all the time. Ed Davey then refused to go to the state banquet with Trump. It feels as though the Lib Dems are a real protest party, and it's tempting to dismiss them as irrelevant, but there's actually a lot of MPs. What do they plan to do in Parliament?
I think it's interesting. I think a lot of them are trying now to make their mark just over a year on from Parliament. So we're seeing them, the same sort of faces pop up in the media and on social media to kind of set out their stall. I think they're still repositioning. I think that they're going to have to move away from the gimmicks that we saw in the election, as fun as they were for you and for I to enjoy.
I actually didn't find them fun. I found them really frustrating. I like being able to prosecute a politician rather than waste a lot of time watching them on a roller coaster and watch them running around a water park.
Yeah.
I felt enormously frustrated whenever covering Lib Dem events. And actually, I was at the election count for when Ed Davey, on the night of the election, the first question we all asked him as the pool for all broadcasters, it's time to put the stunts to a side and get on with the hard work of policy. And so perhaps Ed Davey won't be arriving on the back of a water jet or something today.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some of that seriousness coming through. But Laura Emily Dunn, thank you so much for your time this morning. And GB News will, of course, be covering both the Labour Party conference next weekend and the Conservative Party conference the weekend after. So stay tuned for all of our coverage there.
Well, still to come. For the first time, senior police officers have had a complaint upheld against them for failing to protect children from grooming gang abuse in Rotherham. Youth worker and whistleblower at the heart of the scandal, Jane Senior, will be here later this hour.
But next, reports today that the Prime Minister will press ahead with his plans for digital IDs. Is Tony Blair's failed scheme on its way back? This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
What on earth is going on at our university? So Professor Stephen Greer had worked for the University of Bristol for 36 years when his career was halted after a false accusation of Islamophobia. The issue arose when Greer taught about the Charlie Hebdo attacks during a human rights module, and a student who didn't actually attend the course complained. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Stephen Greer himself to explain what happened. Stephen, thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. Can you just explain the circumstances that led up to you being accused of Islamophobia, please?
Well, out of the blue, or almost out of the blue, I received a complaint about a module I'd been teaching on a human rights unit, entitled Islam, China and the Far East, for nearly 15 years without incident. Which included the increasing critical literature about human rights issues in Islam, China, and the Far East. And my principally, as I said, the principal complaint, it did include a complaint about Charlie Hebdo, but the principal complaint was about the fact that I had referred students to the authoritative academic literature. And the student who complained was the president of BRISOC, the University of Bristol Islamic Society, who was a medical student who'd not attended any of the course himself, and he claimed to be acting on behalf of anonymous students. And there were all kinds of other procedural irregularities in the complaint, but the university decided to entertain it anyway. Okay. And I was exonerated after a 5-month inquiry. Then the university said, well, they were publicly announced. They took the module off the syllabus.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, let's look through the top stories of today. We're delighted to be joined by writer and broadcaster Candice Holdworth and political consultant Laura Emily Dunn. Now, Candice, I'm going to start with you. That very, very unpopular, controversial plan to bring in digital IDs under Tony Blair, 53% of the public are now in favour of it. Is this something which is going to make a comeback?
I must admit, I'm very sceptical of that number. I've never known that. I mean, that's something, I think it's something quite deep within British culture that people are very suspicious of ID and digital ID. I mean, I don't know what could have happened to have shifted public opinion so radically. So I would question that poll, I would. I think most people, just intuitively think it's giving too much power to the state. I don't think that's some crank libertarian position. I think that's a position held quite strongly by the mainstream in this country for a very long time.
And Laura Emily, the government are putting forward digital IDs and wrapping around the issue of illegal migration. They're saying that this would really help secure our borders. Critics of that position, though, say there are a lot of other things you can actually do before you need digital ID to deal with this issue. Where do you stand on it?
I agree with that. I think they should be focusing on those measures that they can do to stop illegal migration. I think the one in, one out policy is clearly not working, so they should be looking to other measures. And I think with digital ID, what's the cost going to be, and how is it going to be enforced as well? And can people obviously tamper with it and come up with fake IDs? That's obviously another sort of industry altogether. So yeah, I think there's genuine concerns, and perhaps people will, like you say, they will rally against it.
But there is a problem, isn't there, with migrants? I mean, obviously there are lots and lots of other issues which need to be tackled too, but there's a problem with migrants deliberately destroying their paper ID, getting into this country and then claiming that they're the victims of trafficking or slavery, and there's nothing we can do about it because they've destroyed their paper ID. Wouldn't digital ID be quite a simple way around that?
Potentially, but can they, like I just said, could they fake it? Could they forge it?
But wouldn't digital ID actually be harder to fake these days with sort of clever online holograms, etc., than paper ID, which can just be thrown away?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, AI, it's a wonderful tool. We were discussing it outside, weren't we? I think there's ways around it. I mean, it's just another debate, isn't it? That's going to go on and on. I think if there's ways that people can find to exploit things, then they will. So, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, kind of speaking of exploitation and security risks, there's this story at the front page of the Times today because the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has given them an interview about China being given a licence to spy. And Sir Lindsay is saying that he's considering a private prosecution after charges were dropped against two people who were previously alleged to have been engaged in espionage. What do you make of that intervention? Quite striking for him to take that sort of stance.
Yes, and I think in the past I would have been very similar. I would have been like, why are people doing this? Why are they being so stupid? We need to raise the price of doing things like this so people will be discouraged from getting into these sorts of relationships.
Just to reassure that these are just charges that were now...
Yes.
So in this case, they're totally innocent.
Yes, exactly. But someone did explain to me that, you can become targeted by people like this, and it's very easy to be manipulated, and often they go for people who are quite vulnerable. So to be very punitive is maybe not the way forward. And I understand why he's taking such a strong stance, but I think we judge people who get fooled by manipulative people, and we forget that these people are very clever at doing that.
Laura Emily, you've worked in Parliament plenty, looking at these sorts of concerns. Is this part of a wider issue we have in our politics where these security risks from hostile state actors aren't taken as seriously enough?
I think the extent and the scale of them is now coming to light. I think perhaps people, if you don't see it, then you don't think it's there. But I think there's a real concern amongst MPs, first of all, for their safety. We've obviously sadly had two MPs murdered in the past several years. Recently, in the past 2 weeks, Sharon Hodgson, her constituency office, was, set on fire. That could be in a completely different story. So I think there's real concerns, not just from that, but from these actors that are there behind the scenes. I went to a talk with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Monday, and he was saying, China, that's something we should really be alert to and be afraid of. He was talking about, for example, in the US, infiltration of Chinese actors in their education system in universities. So it's happening. It's just we're not seeing it. And I think MPs are right to raise those concerns and to speak in the way he has.
And I think it's a really important issue that you raised there about MPs' personal security. 2 MPs murdered in the last 11 years. I think it also means who's going to become an MP? I think you're going to have a problem where people choose not to go into that career because they're worried about their own personal safety, which I think might be part of why Lindsay Hoyle is taking this so seriously. Candice, I'm just going to go on to you about this story that Keir Starmer is going to recognise Palestine as a state. This did come out over the Trump visit. It's still pretty controversial. Obviously, plenty of European countries have taken that step. The US still hasn't taken that step, nor has Germany and Italy. Is it a sensible move of Keir Starmer's?
I don't think so. Not at this juncture. I mean, they still haven't released the hostages. I mean, at this point, it looks like it's rewarding them for October 7th.
And that's the criticism that the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, has made. Rewarding terror.
Yes.
Quite a strong line there, isn't it?
But I think it is. I mean, I think that this is what they wanted out of it. This is essentially giving them what they want. I mean, what was all this fighting for? What has this whole thing been about? If you're just going to give them what they wanted, which they tried to get through incredibly violent means, I think it's so foolhardy and so wrong-headed.
And Laura, Emily, how do you see this one?
I think it's going to play out really the top issue the next couple of days. You've got the UN General Assembly coming up, so Keir Starmer will be going to New York for that. It's going to dominate it, and Trump and his administration have been very forthright in their positions.
Usually when the British ambassador makes a sort of an intervention from the floor in the UN, there's sort of that sort of calm indifference, right, from leaders from the rest of the world. This time, though, this will be a rare occasion where Britain experienced maybe raptures of applause.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It's certainly different times, but I think, you know, it's going to be interesting. I think the messaging and the relationship that we'll see between the UK and the US when they head over there, and how this plays out.
And how this will go with it. Trump and Starmer have been so friendly and cosy this week, but Trump feels very, very strongly about this. He does not want countries to be recognising Palestine as a state. It'll be fascinating to see how that relationship, whether it starts to fracture over the coming months and years.
Yeah, it's probably good he came over for his visit when he did and had a good time. Eh?
I don't think the timing was a coincidence.
You know, indeed.
Candice, Laura, Emily, thank you very much for your time. We'll see you both in the next hour. Now, from Monday, we'll be bringing you more coverage of events from America and news from the White House when our new show, The Late Show Live, launches in Washington, D.C. Here's what you can expect.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Still to come, for the first time, senior police officers have had a complaint upheld against them for failing to protect children from grooming gang abuse in Rotherham. We'll get the latest on that development.
But before any of that, your latest news headlines from Bethany Elsie.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. President Trump says an incursion by Russian fighter jets into Estonian airspace could mean big trouble. Moscow denies the claims. GB News can reveal more than 1,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel on small boats since yesterday morning, bringing this year's total to over 32,000. US politicians are urging the UK and other allies to reconsider their stance on Palestinian statehood, warning the move would empower Hamas and threaten Israel's security. And union members from across the country are expected to hold a rally in support of bin workers in Birmingham who've been on all-out strike for over 6 months. You're up to date. More for you in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. So we're going to be talking later in the show about what we were talking about just then, about the UK recognising Palestine as a state. Now, this is a pretty controversial move.
It is indeed, and we'll also be going to Rotherham because the IOPC, the police watchdog, they have upheld a complaint about senior officers for the first time. We'll be speaking to a key whistleblower in that. All that coming up after the break here on Saturday Morning Live.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. The weekend is here and it's looking very mixed across the UK from place to place and from day to day. Heavy rain in places today with showery weather in the far north across northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Mostly fine to the southeast after a muggy night. Actually, it's going to be a warm day for East Anglia in the southeast with some sunshine coming through later. Also some brightness for Scotland and Northern Ireland in between the showers. But it's across northern England into parts of the Midlands, Wales and the southwest where we will see this persistent area of heavy rain. That could lead to some issues on the roads and some localised flooding by the end of the day because it's just going to stick around in the same sort of places throughout. And in fact, if anything, it turns heavier into the evening across Wales, the Midlands, parts of northern England. But for Scotland, well, we've got a northerly wind blowing in here, so a blustery end to the day with frequent showers, lots of showers through Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland as well. But here's the band of rain as we go into Saturday evening. Very wet weather across parts of the Midlands at this stage, and Wales in particular. Eases off for a time across southwest England, a few showers, and mostly dry in the far south and southeast. In fact, the rain doesn't really go through here because it moves across central parts of the UK into the North Sea overnight, with many places just seeing showers by the end of the night, interspersed by clear spells, and a cooler night for many of us, with temperatures dipping into the single figures fairly widely. The area of rain, most of it's moved into the North Sea by this stage, but I think Sunday will start off with a lot of showers for England and Wales, some heavy and slow-moving downpours across southern counties in particular, also showers moving into the north of Scotland, Northern Ireland, and a very brisk wind overnight and into Sunday across North Sea coasts. And it's going to stay blustery into the start of next week, but higher pressure moves in, colder but drier.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. It is 10:37 and senior officers failed to protect children in Rotherham from grooming gang abuse, the police watchdog has confirmed for the first time. The Independent Police Office for Police Conduct have released a fresh summary into Operation Amazon, an investigation into South Yorkshire Police's response to the allegations of sexual abuse of children between 1999 and 2011.
Now, the new summary, which is informed by representations from individuals like Jane Senior and Angie Heal, found that senior officers failed in their duties. But despite these findings, there will be no misconduct investigations because the watchdog concluded that there was a systematic organisational failure as opposed to the failings of individuals. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Jane Senior, youth worker and whistleblower who worked to expose the Rotherham scandal. Jane, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Charlie, Olivia. Morning.
Now, Jane, obviously this report, it's a summary and 5 pages have come out. It details intelligence sharing errors. What sort of failures were you reporting when you made this complaint?
I think just to put it into context, Charlie, if we go back to after Alexis J and Louise Casey's reports came out into Rotherham, I was working very closely with the IOPC, doing lots of statements and sharing lots of information around junior officers that they felt had failed in their role. And one of the things that became very apparent at that very early stage in 2016 is that nobody was asking any questions about any senior cops at all. And I know that I've sent reports, I'd sent intelligence, I'd attended meetings, and we know that Angie Hill herself sent 3 reports in 2002, 4 and 6, I believe. So in 2018, I just made the decision that these people had to be held to account. We knew that they knew, we just couldn't prove that they knew. So I put a complaint in following the channels that you would follow to the PSD, and immediately that complaint was turned down. I was told, which I found quite shocking, that members of the public cannot complain about senior police officers.
Now, Jane, as you progressed your complaint into this allegation of senior officers failing, we now know it's chief superintendent and above. Now, there are no names in Operation Amazon, and they've said that because no one's named, no one's going to be held for misconduct or face any legal investigation. But you reckon those people, they know who they are?
Absolutely, they know who they are, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even though yesterday was a bit of good news that, you know, actually for the first time ever, something's been upheld against senior police officers, we now need to kind of fight and continue, that them officers need naming. I really hope that as part of the national inquiry, that actually we may get to a stage where some of these officers will be called to give evidence.
And it is a big victory for you, and real congratulations for that, really pushing away over a number of years. But I did find it very strange in the summary, the way it talks about systemic failings, but then refuses to mention a single officer. The systemic failings just means the failings, the individual failings of multiple people. Is there a chance that some people will be named further down the line? Will people be feeling nervous now?
I hope they are, Olivia, I really do. And I do believe at some stage they will be named, because I think, you know, the victims, the families, the survivors and the people of Rotherham need to know that information, and I think it's important that it's out there, you know, and it's public and part of a public inquiry.
Now, Jane, this complaint, your complaint, Operation Amazon, formed part of the wider Operation Linden by the police watchdog into failings by officers, which ran all the way up to 2022. When they published this originally, they left out any reference to senior officers. Talk to me about the battle you've had for the last 3 years to get this information into the public domain. Have you faced a lot of resistance against the idea that senior officers should be held to account here?
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. It's been a nightmare, and I think we have had a few conversations about it. But, you know, what you have to remember is when they published Operation Linden, the first thing that became very apparent to myself and to Angie Heald is they'd buried Amazon within it. So on page 112 of Linden, there is a slight mention of another investigation. They'd not put the word senior officers in, and they'd not named Amazon. So they have continued to say, we're not going to rewrite this report, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, because it is in Linden. Well, actually it isn't, it's buried. They buried a report into senior officers rather than publicly even use the word senior.
Of course, the most important thing is that this never happens again, and that should be the police's priority now. Do you think there's a risk without naming these officers, there is no sort of punishment for them, and then you run the risk of no sort of public humiliation? You do run the risk of something similar happening again, as we've seen throughout the country.
I think absolutely, Olivia, when you kind of just look at Rotherham and Rotherham alone, and at South Yorkshire Police, you know, we've had Hargreaves, we've had Hillsborough, we've had the child abuse scandal, we've not had one single senior officer that's been held culpable, responsible for anything, you know, and we've now got a duty of candour that's going to be coming out, and I just think, how can we sit and we have to have a law where people are compelled to tell the truth? These people are in high-powered, high-paid, responsible positions. Should they not be just made to tell the truth? You know, should they be facing criminal actions? You know, should we be putting some of these senior officers on a stand and asking them the very, very difficult questions and putting in front of them the evidence that we know is available?
Jane, we know that as part of your efforts to get this information into the public domain, you had some support from the South Yorkshire Mayor, Oliver Coppard, who's going to come on the programme in the next hour. Now, what sort of pressure did he apply to the IOPC, and do you think that helped change the tide and force them into releasing more information?
Yeah, I 100% do, Charlie, because I kind of believe that if we'd have not got Oliver Coppard and some of his staff involved, we'd have been still sat here in another 7 years talking about Operation Amazon. I mean, you have to remember, I've been told that if I was a vexatious complainant, I could be looking at going to prison. If I put the report out in the public domain, these senior officers would sue me. I could never name them. So we've gone through that, and then Oliver Coppard just kind of said, enough, stop. And he put the pressure on, you know, from meeting him, I believe, in March. What's took us 7 years to try and battle, we've kind of turned around in 6 months. Is it great that the reports come out? Yes, it is. Does it go far enough? No, it absolutely doesn't. But I do think it's a step in the right direction, but I don't think we've finished yet.
OK, Jane Senior, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Saturday Morning Live. And congratulations that your complaint is finally out in the public domain.
Well, a spokesperson for South Yorkshire Police said Operation Amazon was one of 93 strands of Operation Linden, the outcome of which was published in 2022. At the time, SYP accepted the vast majority of the Operation Linden findings, but disagreed with the decision to uphold the Operation Amazon complaint on the basis that the finding did not name any officers who had failed in their statutory duty.
The Force acknowledges and respects the IOPC's decision. South Yorkshire Police has accepted and apologised for the failure to safeguard vulnerable young people in Rotherham against CSC in the 1990s and 2000s. We remain committed to ensuring that the organisation and officers of today are the best they can be at preventing harm. Well, remarkable woman, Jane Senior, and the struggles that she faced to get that out, the accusations of vexatious complaints, well documented. I highly recommend that people go and look away at some of what she said elsewhere, and we're very lucky to have people like her, I think.
Absolutely. 7-year struggle, and as she says now, at least there is a step in the right direction. Well, still to come. Sir Keir Starmer is set to recognise Palestine as a state this weekend.
The Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, has labelled the move as a reward for terrorism. What will recognition really mean?
And more on that developing story from Heathrow with major flight disruption too. This is Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a beautiful first half of the month for southern Europe, it now changes, with Western Europe turning unsettled, heavy rain and thunderstorms turning up, but we keep the dry and warm weather across Greece into Cyprus, as well as Italy. In fact, Italy is likely to turn hotter over the next few days, but you can see the band of rain and thunderstorms moving into parts of France, as well as northern parts of Spain and Portugal. Cooler winds blow here as well, with a drop in temperatures compared with the last few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel. Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, Sir Keir Starmer is preparing to officially recognise the state of Palestine this weekend.
Well, questions have been raised over the timing of the Prime Minister's announcement, with suggestions that he avoided making the declaration before and during President Trump's state visit.
Meanwhile, the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, has accused Sir Keir of rewarding terror with the move.
Well, let's speak to the editor-at-large at Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen. Carl, what does this really mean? I mean, it's just symbolic, isn't it?
I think so. Symbols are important. Britain has been saying for 70 years that it supports a two-state solution, but it's only recognised Israel and not Palestine. So it's right that that is addressed. But you're correct, it is a symbolic gesture. What's really needed is concrete action. Symbols alone aren't enough.
Well, Carl, the state has taken some action. They've suspended some arms sales to Israel, which has obviously been criticised also by Tory opposition, saying that that's the wrong timing for that as well. But on this criticism from Kemi Badenoch, saying that it's rewarding terror, what do you make of that allegation? Because, of course, this recognition of Palestine is coming amid the war and in reaction to the invasion of Israel on October the 7th.
Well, it's a bit of a funny example to use it for because the Israeli state, of course, was established through terrorism. Zionist terrorist gangs bombed the King David Hotel, killing many British troops. They murdered British soldiers and booby-trapped their dead bodies. And that never prevented the UK from recognising Israel. And more generally, political violence has been used to secure national recognition for most countries that have been under colonial rule in the past. But I think the most important point is that recognition and moves towards politics and diplomacy is supposed to be the alternative to violence. If you don't provide that path, then you persuade people that the only route to achieve their objectives is violence and fighting.
Well, I think lots of Jews in the UK would dispute the idea that Israel sort of was only recognised because Britain felt it had some sort of duty to. Israel was a safe place for Jews to go after the Holocaust during the Second World War. But just moving on, sort of more generally, I mean, Britain is recognising Palestine as a state. This is essentially just symbolic, as you say, sort of empty virtue signalling, basically, and it could do massive damage to Britain's relationship with America, which is a very, very important relationship. You talk about diplomacy. Might this not be a big diplomatic misstep?
Britain should have an independent foreign policy. We shouldn't just be mindlessly following America and doing whatever Donald Trump wishes. If you look only at the past few decades, from the invasion and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, the war that's been provoked in Ukraine, which is a terrible disaster, and again at this genocide in Gaza, following American foreign policy blindly has been terrible for the UK, and it's been terrible for our diplomatic relationships with most of the countries in the world. And I think that we should have an independent foreign policy, and I think we should think about not only what is right, but what is smart to do for our relationships with every country in the world except the USA, not only the USA.
OK, editor-at-large at Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen, thanks for your thoughts this morning. And we've got lots more to come on Saturday Morning Live today, including more of today's top stories, the latest on the small boat crossings and that breaking news from Heathrow.
Well, don't go anywhere. Now it's time for your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Some particularly heavy rain over the next 24 hours or so, with some flooding expected in some places. A weather warning is in place, and it's all courtesy of this area of low pressure that's going to be tracking its way northeastwards across central parts of the UK through the day on Saturday. On the backward side of the area of low pressure, the isobars will tighten together, so it will also turn very windy for some of us later today as well. But back to this afternoon, and it's northern England and Wales that's seeing the heaviest and most persistent rains. So an increasing chance of some flooding on the roads and some travel disruption later today. Some rain also across more southern counties of the UK as well. A mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for Northern Ireland and Scotland. But here, some pretty strong blustery northerly winds. So feeling wherever you are much cooler compared to yesterday. Now, as we focus into this evening, there will be a let-up in the rain across some southern areas of the UK. So South Wales and southern parts of England might see some early evening sunshine, but very heavy rain across parts of northern England and North Wales. So it's here where we're likely to see the risk of some travel disruption. A brighter end to the day for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but there will still be plenty of blustery showers, and it will feel chilly in that northerly breeze. That heavy rain, though, across northern England could cause further issues as we go into this evening and to the first part of the night. And we could also see some strong gusty winds as that rain clears, potentially even severe gales, particularly on the east coast of Lincolnshire and down towards Norfolk for a time through the early hours. A fairly cool night to come wherever you are, though, but turning drier, temperatures perhaps even in Scotland falling down cold enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas. But Sunday does promise to be a lot drier compared to on Saturday. For many of us, there will be some showers in parts of South Wales and southern England through the morning in particular, and quite cloudy here. Heavy and blustery showers actually across northern Scotland, and with those strong, keen northerly winds, it will feel particularly chilly for the time of year here, with temperatures widely below average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 20th of September. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Saturday Morning Live.
Breaking news this morning, airports across Europe, including Heathrow and Berlin, are reporting disruption due to what Brussels airport is calling a cyber attack. We'll bring you the latest developments throughout the show.
The returns arrangement with France and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days.
Big challenges because GB News can reveal today that 1,155 small boat migrants have arrived since yesterday morning. That's more than 1,000 migrants in and just 3 out. The partial migrant returns deal with France is now in action, but is it doing enough? We'll get the latest.
And Sir Ed Davey has also made a pledge today to stop the boats and take on Reform UK as the Liberal Democrat conference gets underway in Bournemouth. Our political correspondent Catherine Forster is on the ground.
Yes, here in Bournemouth, Sir Ed Davey trying to grab some headlines. They've got 70-plus MPs. They don't get that much publicity, though. Today, he'll be hoping to change all that with his tougher stance on stopping the boats they're going to announce.
Elsewhere, for the first time, it can be revealed that senior police officers have had a complaint upheld against them for failing to protect children from grooming gang abuse in Rotherham. But no officers are named in the report. The Mayor of South Yorkshire will join us shortly.
Important for the next generation to know what's keeping them safe, to know where the nuclear deterrent came from, because it is a part of history and no part.
Yes, more than 100 nuclear test veterans come together for their annual reunion, made possible by GB News viewers. We'll hear their stories. The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters, and your weekend starts here. Lib Dem conference today then, and it's a stop the boats strategy and stance coming from the yellow team. Quite strong lines coming out already, especially on this migrant camps approach, which of course a lot of Lib Dems, a lot of Labour figures attacked the Tories for doing when they were in government.
It's a very bold move from a party on the left. I thought it was interesting what Catherine was saying. The Lib Dems do. They have 72 MPs in Parliament, and yet we barely talk about them. They seem to be sort of scrabbling around for some relevance. Maybe this is their new approach. Tack to the right, get some of those reform voters away from reform.
I'm still trying to work out the Lib Dems. What do they stand for? What do they mean? I'm really looking forward to hearing from Catherine Forster and the Lib Dems she'll be speaking to for the rest of the day to get more of a sense of where they go next. And what do you reckon about the Lib Dems? What do you think about their move to call for these migrant camps? You know the drill by now. We want to read them, so post the comments on gbnews.com/your say.
Increasingly feeling like Reform is just the party to beat for every single other party in Parliament. But before we do that or anything else, here are all your news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Estonia has requested a meeting with other NATO members after Russian warplanes violated its airspace. 3 planes flew over Estonia for 12 minutes without permission before being intercepted by NATO fighter jets. The military alliance has condemned the move as reckless behaviour, with the country's foreign minister branding it an unprecedented and brazen intrusion. But Moscow denies the claims, saying its aircraft were making a planned flight over neutral neutral waters in the Baltic Sea. Tensions are rising between NATO and Russia after Poland and Romania also reported incursions in recent days. US President Donald Trump was asked by reporters about the incident.
I'm going to have to look at it. They're going to be briefing me in a short while, so I'll let you know about it tonight or tomorrow.
What's your take in general?
Well, I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't like when that happens. It could be big trouble.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's president says Russia fired 40 missiles and nearly 600 drones overnight. 3 people have been killed and dozens more injured. Volodymyr Zelensky says residential areas and civilian companies were targeted in different regions across Ukraine. More than 1,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel on small boats since yesterday morning as 2 people were returned to France under the government's new returns deal. 3 people have been returned so far, and the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has vowed to do whatever it takes to end the crossings. GB News can reveal that more than 32,000 people have made the journey so far this year. That compares to just 24,000 crossings at the same point last year. Flights have been delayed and cancelled at airports including Heathrow after a suspected cyber attack. It's understood Collins Aerospace, which is a service provider for check-ins and boarding systems, were targeted. London Heathrow, Brussels and Berlin are all experiencing disruption. They're advising passengers to check in before travelling to the airport. US politicians are urging the UK and other allies to reconsider their stance on Palestinian statehood, warning the move would empower Hamas and threaten Israel's security. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is expected to announce the UK's formal recognition as early as tomorrow, ahead of the UN General Assembly meeting. Republican leaders have written to the UK, France, Canada, Australia and others, saying it undermines the prospect of peace and sets a dangerous precedent for violence over diplomacy. The leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, also opposes the move, saying it would reward terrorism. And the House of Commons Speaker says China has been given a licence to spy on Parliament after charges against 2 men accused of espionage were dropped. Sir Lindsay Hoyle is considering whether to carry out private prosecutions against the men who are accused of targeting the China Research Group of MPs. He's written to the Home Secretary saying the decision opens the door to foreign spies and urged her to pursue all avenues to protect the House and its members. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thanks, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with me, Charlie Peters, and Olivia Utley. Now, a lot of you getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say with all your reaction to the upcoming Lib Dem conference. But there's one person who's been sharing some GB News content this morning, and that's the US President, Donald Trump. He's been sharing this clip of Tom Harwood interviewing a lady in Windsor who, on the occasion of the state visit, was very excited to see Mr. Trump in town, saying that he's not a politician, he's a businessman, and she said that he was a legend. You know, even Britain's watching, and now Washington's watching.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? Just 4 years old, this channel, and yet we've got the President of the United States sharing our journalism. Very exciting, that.
Not too bad.
Well, breaking news. Heathrow Airport has confirmed passengers could face major delays after a suspected cyber attack on Friday night that affected multiple airports across Europe.
Now, Brussels airports have said staff are having to conduct manual check-in and boarding procedures as the automated systems have been affected.
A spokesperson from Heathrow Airport has told holidaymakers to check with airlines before travelling, and Collins Aerospace say they are actively working to resolve the issue.
Well, joining us now live from Heathrow Airport, the science and technology journalist Teresa Pultarova. Teresa, what's it like on the ground there?
So I've been here since 4:30 a.m. I was supposed to be on one of the earliest flights today at 6:30 to Amsterdam, then connecting to South Africa for a visit of the Square Kilometre Array Telescope. I think it's calmed down a little bit. I think the situation has sort of improved. I think some flights have been dispatched. But it's been very chaotic for us here in the morning because we were given no information, particularly my airline is KLM, who have no customer support service desk here at all. So we knew nothing. Most people like myself had connected connecting flights from Amsterdam, and they were given nothing. Like we came in the morning. For some reason, KLM wasn't able to issue boarding passes digitally, and they told us to collect boarding passes at the check-in desk. But then this situation started when they started virtually manually, I don't know what they were doing, but checking people in one by one. And it was like every 5 minutes they would check in one person. And then suddenly I don't know, we knew nothing, how long the delay would be, anything. And at some point they say, okay, the flight will depart without you, and please, people from the 6:30 a.m. flight, just leave so that we can start checking the 8:40 flight. And I think that's the thing that I've been hearing most from people who've been with me or around, that it's just this absolute lack of communication that people just like...
Thank you very much, Teresa. We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for your take there on the ground at Heathrow. It sounds like it's chaos, so viewers, please check before you travel.
Yes, indeed. Moving on now, senior officers failed to protect children in Rotherham from grooming gang abuse. The police watchdog has confirmed for the first time.
The Independent Office for Police Conduct have released a fresh summary into Operation Amazon, an investigation into South Yorkshire Police's response to allegations of child sexual abuse and exploitation between 1999 and 2011.
Now, the new summary, informed by representations from whistleblowers and police strategists, found that senior police officers failed in their duties. But despite these findings, there will be no misconduct investigations because the IOPC concluded that there was a systematic organisational failure as opposed to the failings of individuals. Well, joining us now is the Mayor of South Yorkshire, Oliver Coppard. Good morning, Oliver. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, good morning.
Now, your role in this release of this fresh information has been quite central, Oliver. As I understand it, you've attended a lot of meetings with the police watchdog to pressure them to release more information. How have you found that they were quite resistant to that?
Thanks, Angie and Jane, and I think all the credit goes to them, frankly. They were the ones that put pressure on the police during the whole issue of CSE in Rotherham. They were the ones that were raising red flags constantly, and since then they're the ones that have been putting pressure on the IOPC and the police to release as much information as possible. So all I did really was support them in the work that they were doing, and yes, I was in some of the meetings and was putting pressure on the IOPC myself, but all credit goes to Angie and Jane in particular.
Well, it's a brilliant step in the right direction, but to me it looks as though there's a bit of sort of fudge going on. There is a admittance that there have been systemic failures, but there isn't a single police officer named. What is that about? Are we going to get some names at some point?
I mean, there are certainly some challenges with introducing names in reports of this kind, legal issues, etc. You know, reasons why. I think for good reason, you can't just put names into the public domain. But that said, I want to see every single police officer, every single person that was responsible for those crimes that were committed against young girls in particular in Rotherham held to account. Of course I do. This is a good step in the right direction. I'm pleased that the IOPC have taken this step. And we will continue to do everything we can in South Yorkshire to make sure there is absolutely no complacency when it comes to these sorts of issues.
Now, Oliver, obviously the next opportunity for some further investigation and action to be taken is going to be that national inquiry launched by the Labour government, announced a few months ago, still waiting for a chair on that, of course. Now, in this new Operation Amazon summary, the IOPC said that because some senior officers had retired, they weren't able to speak to them. Do you want the inquiry to leave no stone unturned and to go after those who served, retired, whatever? Everyone needs to make sure they give evidence and are held to account.
Of course I do. And that's absolutely got to be how we approach any of these issues. We've seen this week, haven't we, the government announced the Hillsborough Law, introduced that into Parliament, which again is about making sure that victims of injustices in our society get the justice that they deserve, and they get the support they deserve, they get all the help they can to get to a place where they can say that justice has been done. And that has to be what any inquiry of this kind has to go into. In South Yorkshire, we have led the way, I think it is fair to say. We have been the canary in the coal mine. We have gone through this ourselves first with Louise Casey obviously coming in to talk to us about what we needed to do differently, how to change here in South Yorkshire the approach to CSE, and we have gone through all of that. So we're happy to share all of that work, all of that evidence, all of the work we've done here to get to a better place with anyone across the country who wants to see how we've done it. As I say, no complacency in South Yorkshire, but we've certainly been through some of this ourselves and are happy to share our experience with anyone else.
And are you confident that justice will be served if police officers don't have to speak because they've retired or just don't want to give their statements to the inquiry? Are you confident that this inquiry will actually achieve what it was set out to achieve?
Well, it's certainly a concern, isn't it, that we need to make sure that anybody that is asked to give evidence has to give evidence. My understanding is, as statutory inquiries or investigations go forward, that should be the case. But we've got to make sure that justice is done. That's the bottom line, and that has to be based on how victims feel, how survivors feel, and based on their experiences. So I always try and listen first and foremost to victims and survivors and make sure that we're putting their feelings at the forefront of any work we undertake.
Oliver, what sort of reassurance have you heard from South Yorkshire Police and other statutory agencies beyond the sort of public comments that they give about actions taken? Have they reassured you privately about the failures now being identified about senior officers, that their senior leadership has learned? Because, of course, we've heard from previous investigations about junior officers that, action was taken. What about at the senior level? Have you heard private reassurance on that front?
Well, as you can understand, my focus is on South Yorkshire. As the Mayor of South Yorkshire, you'd understand that's where I've been putting my effort. And
that's what I'm asking about, to be clear, yeah.
I can confidently say in South Yorkshire we have a fundamentally different approach to CSE. It's the council in Rotherham are under new leadership and take an absolutely different approach to CSE. The police in South Yorkshire are under new leadership. I have been in post since 2022 and then taken on the role of Police and Crime Commissioner since last year. We have a new Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime in South Yorkshire, all of whom would say what I'm saying to you this morning, which is zero complacency, absolutely fundamentally different approach to any of these issues and putting victims and survivors first.
Well, it's a relief to hear that steps are being taken in the right direction, and hopefully the culture is changing. I mean, we are now talking about sort of 11 years ago. Would you say that something like this wouldn't happen again now in South Yorkshire?
I think that's when I say no complacency. What I mean is we will absolutely never say we know everything that is going on in Rotherham across South Yorkshire, that we know that this could never happen again. I think, frankly, that's where people got into problems last time round. They said it couldn't happen here. This is no problem. Don't look at South Yorkshire. Don't look at Rotherham. I would never say that now. I would always say we have to be vigilant at all times, make sure that we are always putting victims and survivors first, and that we're doing everything we can to understand what is going on in our communities and take every complaint, every suspicion seriously, and, as I say, listen to victims and survivors.
Now, Oliver, there's another regional mayor who takes a great interest in these issues. That's Andy Burnham, of course. He's led very keenly on this issue in Greater Manchester, leading to several investigations. He appears to be launching something of a leadership drive at the moment. What do you make of that ambition?
Well, he's certainly not said that to me. Andy is at all of the mayor's meetings, as you'd expect, and that's never come up. Look, I love Andy. I think he's a great politician. I think he has done a brilliant job in Greater Manchester. That's why I want to see him stay as the mayor of Greater Manchester. I think he adds a huge amount to devolution in this country, and the work that he's done in Greater Manchester is great evidence of why devolution, why mayors are so important. So I hope he stays doing that role long into the future.
Well, thank you very much. That was the Mayor of South Yorkshire, Oliver Coppard. Thank you, Oliver. Well, a spokesperson for South Yorkshire Police said that Operation Amazon was one of 93 strands of Operation Linden, the outcome of which was published in 2022.
At the time, South Yorkshire Police accepted the vast majority of Linden's findings. They disagreed with the decision to uphold the Operation Amazon complaints because they didn't name any officers. Now, the force has acknowledged and respects the watchdog's decision. They've apologised for the failure to safeguard young children in Rotherham, and they said they remain committed to ensuring that officers are the best they can be at preventing harm.
And back to that breaking news this morning, 1,155 small boat migrants have arrived since yesterday morning.
Now, GB News can reveal that more than 32,182 migrants have crossed the Channel so far this year, and that compares to 24,335 who crossed at the same point last year.
Official Home Office figures reveal that 1,072 migrants arrived illegally on 13 small boats on just Friday. And GB News can reveal that another 83 arrived into Dover at 6 a.m. this morning.
Well, joining us now is the political commentator Dominic Moffat. Dominic, thank you for joining us. Look, 1,000 in, 3 out. You have to say, this partial returns deal isn't having the deterrent effect you might have hoped.
Well, good morning, Charlie and Olivia. And look, you're right, this is an incredibly difficult problem for the government and one they're really struggling with. It's one that the last government struggled with as well. So let's be clear about that. What we have seen, and there was a very interesting article in the Times I was reading, is that people smugglers have had to change their tactics. They're having to invest in bigger, more powerful boats, which I suspect will make it easier to detect them when they're crossing the channel. Clearly, the government's activity is changing the way people smuggling is working. And I'm sure the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, will be delighted to hear that she's disrupting their operations already.
How's the government feeling about this one-in, one-out deal? I mean, most of the public would say it isn't working. People smugglers in the Times, as you say, are saying that this isn't really working. Is the government actually confident in its policy itself?
When I've been speaking to MPs, one of the things that you see from them is that the activity that the government is now undertaking, the drive, the effort going into it, is feeding through into the public. The public are responding positively to this. Does it mean it's resolved? Absolutely not. Does it mean, however, that people are going to be able to see an improvement over the coming weeks and months? Yes, it does.
OK, thank you, Dominic Moffat, for your time this morning on the government's attempts to deal with the small boat crossing crisis. I have to say, Olivia, they need to take stronger action. I think the government itself knows that. Shabana Mahmood, new Home Secretary, talking about visa penalties. It's just a matter of when they might bring in new stances.
Well, she's a lot punchier than her predecessor, that's for sure. But what happens when every government tries to address this issue is it gets tangled up in a legal thicket. And there are so many people now saying that unless you dismantle that thicket, there's nothing that you can do about this issue.
Obviously, it seems like the Labour leadership don't want to necessarily go down rewriting the laws as much. And they have had some legal victories in the High Court this week, so perhaps they do see a path to victory without ripping up the ECHR. But we'll see.
We will see. But still to come, we'll go live to the Liberal Democrats conference as it kicks off in Bournemouth today. Sir Ed Davey is up to his usual antics. We'll bring you the latest pictures.
But next, Strictly. It's back on our screens tonight, and you may have heard of the Strictly curse ruining celebrities' relationships. But is the real Strictly curse the impact it can have on their careers? We'll be hearing about that next in our paper review with Candice and Laura. This is Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. See you in a moment.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Saturday Morning Live at 11:24 with Olivia Utley and Charlie Peters. Now, Sir Ed Davey has arrived at the Lib Dem conference. So let's take a look at some of the pictures from earlier. It sounds as though the Lib Dem leader is up to his usual tricks.
Oh, he's marching in. With a marching band, of course. Lots of Union flags there alongside the Lib Dem placards. But what's the name of that role that they have for someone who leads a marching band holding that stick?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure people on gbnews.com/yoursay will let us know the current role he's in. Well, we're still joined in the studio by the consultant Laura Emily Dunn and the writer and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. Candice, what do you make of this? I mean, we were saying in the last hour that this is, the opportunity for the Lib Dems to really give us an understanding of their direction, and maybe he's left behind those election antics, but here we go again.
I think it is just far too self-consciously quirky for my taste. I mean, this is someone who's clearly trying to cultivate a persona. It's not natural. I think it's endearing when someone is not aware of how eccentric they are, and actually you love them all the more for it because it feels genuine. But with Ed Davey, it's just so forced to me, and like you say, I actually don't know what the Lib Dems' positions are on anything. These are not serious people, in my opinion.
Well, we're going to get lots of their positions read out over, obviously, this conference period. But, Laura Emily, you're just hearing from Candice, they're saying they're not. It seems very forced. I think he genuinely enjoys this stuff.
He is. I mean, look at that. I wish we could hear the sound in the studio. Well, I mean, is there going to be something every day? That's what I'd like to know.
I mean, you could say, couldn't you? We're all very critical of it, we're all scoffing at it a bit, but we are talking about it. And to be fair to the Lib Dems, the strategy seemed to work pretty well in the general election. They went up to 72 MPs, nearly a record for them. Maybe this stuff works. Maybe the other leaders should take a leaf out their book.
Well, what would we like to see Keir Starmer doing? I mean, I don't know answers on a postcard for that, but they've clearly found their niche, haven't they? They know what's appealing to their voters, and we're talking about it, and you guys are picking it up, so it's working.
But then, as they are a party with 72 MPs, shouldn't they be doing something more serious with this? Why aren't they using their influence for something valuable?
I know, but they're very good. I mean, the Lib Dems have been doing this for years. They know how to nail the electoral strategy in whatever constituency they're in. They're used to being the third party. They are excellent at the parliamentary mathematics. So maybe when you've nailed that, you can just get into pratfalls and,
Sure, there's going to be a funny transition here, isn't there? Because we're going to get off Ed Davey doing the marching band business. There he is with the drum now. He's found a new instrument to handle. And then suddenly, the Lib Dems are going to start speaking about stopping the small boats with migrant camps. Quite a hard shift from marching bands to put them in disused military sites.
Not a subtle shift there, and I don't think they'll be able to joke around with that. And like we were discussing earlier, we just need to see, how it's going to be funded. We want to see that costing, and the devil will be in that detail. So, watch this space later today.
So we've got the story here that you wanted to talk about, Candice, about Starmer rewarding terror on Palestine. I mean, is this what's happening here, or is it just that Keir Starmer is falling into line with lots of other European countries?
Yes, and I think also it's to do with his own party management as well. I mean, it's looking like there could be break-offs from the Labour movement. You look at Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn. That could fragment the left-wing vote, although actually people are wondering if this party can even make it to the next election. But I think it's becoming a significant issue for Labour, the Gaza issue. It's splitting the vote, and they could actually lose some of their really big future leaders of the Labour Party, like Wes Streeting, Shabana Mahmood, Angela Rayner's seat is looking very weak as well. So it's a real issue for them.
Is it going to make a difference, Laura Emily? Is this, if it is, and I don't think it is the case, that they're just chasing a domestic vote, but even if they are taking that stance, the people who are taking away the sort of the left pro-Gaza vote, they're always going to go further than them, aren't they? So it's kind of difficult to see them winning over that constituency.
I think so, and like we've just said, there's that real split in the Labour Party. It's showing those divisions, and with UN General Assembly coming up, it'd be interesting to see which other countries leaders align with Keir Starmer and those which align with Trump and the US administration. But it's definitely one of the hot political topics here, which isn't going to shift. And the eyes are on what Jeremy Corbyn and his kind of crew are doing politically, and Labour are worried.
And away from hard politics or politics at all, in fact, Strictly's starting again this evening. There's a story in the papers about how we all talk about the Strictly curse, breaking up relationships. What damage is it doing to people's careers? I would have thought it would do a great job for people's careers.
I know. Why has it suddenly become a career killer? I think the only thing is if you look really bad dancing on Strictly, you never quite come back from that.
Do you think? I think it's quite endearing when people look terrible dancing.
Yes, like Ed Balls could get away with it.
Yeah.
But then there
I think that made Ed Balls.
Yes,
actually.
it did. It's true, right? But he was also sort of unaware of it. But I think it's when someone can't quite cultivate that and they just look very awkward. It's terrible. It's cringing.
Well, the jungle worked for Nigel. Perhaps Strictly could work for Sir Ed Davey. This could be a politician.
Oh, I can absolutely see him on Strictly.
He'd probably be pretty good at it.
I'm such a terrible dancer. It would ruin my career.
Do you think there's a Strictly curse on careers as well, Laura Emily?
Oh, I don't think so. I think people just enjoy it, don't they? It's a nice bit of escapism on a Saturday night, and it'd be good to see more politicians on there having a bit of fun and showing their true colours.
Anne Widdecombe did it once, didn't she?
She did.
She was present, perhaps involved in some way as well. It was an interesting. She did her best. We'll get on to talk about that next time. How was that for you? Because it certainly was quite the experience. Right, Candice, Laura Emily, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. But now it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and there's still plenty of time for you to become our biggest winner to date.
Well, here are all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British Giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, thank you very much to Candice and Laura here with our paper review.
And there's lots more coming up on the show today, including a very special report from Jack Carson. But first, dancing the news headlines tango, it's Bethany Elsey.
Trust me, nobody wants to see that. Good morning, I've got your headlines. President Donald Trump says an incursion by Russian fighter jets into Estonian airspace could mean big trouble. Moscow denies the claims. GB News can reveal more than 1,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel on small boats since yesterday morning, bringing this year's total to over 32,000. US politicians are urging the UK and other allies to reconsider their stance on Palestinian statehood, warning the move would empower Hamas and threaten Israel's security. And Sir Ed Davey says the Liberal Democrats are the most united party in Westminster by a country mile as he arrives at their annual conference in Bournemouth. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thanks, Bethany. And coming up on Saturday Morning Live, got a special report from Jack Carson on nuclear veterans as they continue to fight for recognition.
And we'll have lots more from the Liberal Democrat conference, where Ed Davey is up to his usual tricks, dancing with a marching band today. Do let us know what you think of that at gbnews.com/yoursay.
Stay with us here on Saturday Morning Live.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Some particularly heavy rain over the next 24 hours or so, with some flooding expected in some places. A weather warning is in place, and it's all courtesy of this area of low pressure that's going to be tracking its way northeastwards across central parts of the UK through the day on Saturday. On the backward side of the area of low pressure, the isobars will tighten together, so it will also turn very windy for some of us later today as well. But back to this afternoon, and it's northern England and Wales that's seeing the heaviest and most persistent rain. So an increasing chance of some flooding on the roads and some travel disruption later today. Some rain also across more southern counties of the UK as well. A mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for Northern Ireland and Scotland. But here, some pretty strong blustery northerly winds. So feeling wherever you are much cooler compared to yesterday. Now, as we focus into this evening, there will be a let-up in the rain across some southern areas of the UK. So South Wales and southern parts of England might see some early evening sunshine, but very heavy rain across parts of northern England and North Wales. So it's here where we're likely to see the risk of some travel disruption. A brighter end to the day for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but there will still be plenty of blustery showers, and it will feel chilly in that northerly breeze. That heavy rain, though, across northern England could cause further issues as we go into this evening and to the first part of the night. And we could also see some strong gusty winds as that rain clears, potentially even severe gales, particularly on the east coast of Lincolnshire and down towards Norfolk for a time through the early hours. A fairly cool night to come wherever you are, though, but turning drier, temperatures perhaps even in Scotland falling down cold enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas. But Sunday does promise to be a lot drier compared to on Saturday. For many of us, there will be some showers in parts of South Wales and southern England through the morning in particular, and quite cloudy here. Heavy and blustery showers actually across northern Scotland, and with those strong, keen northerly winds, it will feel particularly chilly for the time of year here, with temperatures widely below average.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. It's 11:36.
Yes, the Liberal Democrat conference is underway in Bournemouth, and our political correspondent, Catherine Forson, is there for us. Catherine, good morning. What's the mood like on the ground? How's it all going down at Lib Dem conference?
Well, they're very upbeat, and well, they might be, because they've got 72 seats. Of course, Reform are happy, they're leading in the polls. The Lib Dems are happy with 72 seats. But of course, always more to do. The rain is almost stopping here, but in the last few minutes, we had Sir Ed Davey, king of the stunts, roll across this lawn at the head of a marching band. Always look on the bright side of life was the song, followed by the A-Team. They do do have a way of catching the cameras, but do they need perhaps to get a bit more serious? I'm joined now by Marie Goldman. She is the Lib Dem MP for Chelmsford. Marie, thank you very much for talking to us on GB News today. You took Chelmsford last year. That was a seat that had been Conservative for about 75 years. What's the Lib Dem strategy going forward to try to capitalise on the gains that you made last year?
So it's great to be here today. I'm so excited for conference. It was great to see Ed arriving with a marching band. You know, what's more British than that? And a real smile on everyone's faces, and it was absolutely fantastic. And you're right to ask, you know, so what are we aiming for? Well, there's no ceiling on our ambitions, absolutely. And we recognise that people across the country are feeling really let down by the government. They're feeling let down by the Conservatives and opposition, who aren't really holding anything together. They're not holding the government to account. And we are providing that genuine, constructive opposition to the government, holding their feet to the fire. But we think we have a much more positive vision for the future. We think we live in a great country, an absolutely fantastic country, full of people who are incredibly skilled, great expertise, great knowledge, and great potential. But my word, there are things that need fixing, and I think we are seeing that the public is just getting fed up with politicians not fixing things. And we have a really good vision for the future of our country. We think the sky is the limit, and there is, as I said, the sky is the limit to our ambitions as well. So we want to use our conference to tell people, you know, our great vision for the future of this country. And there's so many things that we want to do, but we do, of course, have to tackle the issues that people are really concerned about. Now, you know, of course, asylum seekers, you know, immigration is a real problem, and we, you know, seeing so many people arrive by boats, which is incredibly dangerous as well. We do need to see that stop, but that's been made more difficult to stop those boats by successive governments not getting to grip with the problem. Now, what we're proposing is declaring a national emergency, because we think it is a national emergency. Having so many people, it's a humanitarian crisis, surely. We've got 90,000 people, and that includes women and children, in the backlog of the asylum system at the moment. That is simply not good enough. We need to declare a national emergency so that we can deal with that. And what we're proposing is creating what we would call Nightingale asylum centres, so that where we can increase that processing, we can get people out of the system. Now, if people are not supposed to be here because they have no right to claim asylum, then we need to be sending them back to the country that they came from. If they have a right to be here, then we should absolutely be processing them quickly, allowing them to work so they can contribute to our system, so they can be paying taxes, and so they can be working in the industries which are crying out for them. We need more doctors and nurses and dentists in our NHS, and a lot of those asylum seekers actually do have those skills. So, you know, we would welcome those people. We need more people in our hospitality industry. We need more people picking our crops, for example. And some of those people who are coming could actually fill those jobs, but we need to process them first. And while they're just languishing in the asylum system, then we're not getting anywhere. That's no good for anybody, and I can completely understand why people are very, very frustrated about it. We as Liberal Democrats have a plan to tackle it. Let's get on with it.
Well, yes, obviously people furious about the asylum hotels, and you're talking about Nightingale centres to address that. But in terms of letting people that cross the channel on small boats work while their asylum claims are processed, isn't that just going to effectively reward people for making that dangerous journey in the first place, and encourage more to do the same? You can process people more quickly, but how do you prevent people from making that crossing in the first place?
Well, just to be clear, I didn't say that they should work while they're being processed. We should process them quickly so that they then can work. But how do you stop them from making that dangerous journey in the first place? Well, if they know that they're going to be sent back, if they have no right to be here, then that in itself is a huge deterrent. And of course we need to be working with our international partners to make that happen. Now, we used to have an agreement when we were in the European Union called the Dublin system, which meant that we could send people much more easily back to their country of origin. And we've seen the numbers go up and up and up since that European referendum. And that is a direct consequence of that. So we need to be, you know, it's all very well having this agreement with France where we have one in, one out, but I think we had one out yesterday and 800 in, or something along those lines. So, you know, obviously the maths doesn't work with that unless we get on with it much more quickly. But it is about processing people. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to get on with.
Well, Marie Goldman, good to be here in Bournemouth. Look forward to hearing what else the Lib Dems have in store for us at conference. Thank you very much for talking to us on GB News. Yes, I think it was over 1,000 in yesterday and 3 out. Clearly a crisis. The Liberal Democrats saying they would declare a national emergency. But would their plans make the difference? Because we've heard stop the boats from Rishi Sunak. We've heard smash the gangs from Labour. So far, nothing seems to be working. But from Bournemouth, back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. There at the Lib Dem conference. And Olivia, interesting to hear that conversation with Lib Dem MP talking about how we've got so many gaps in our hospitality sector and we perhaps need migration to help fill it. We've got hundreds of thousands of young people who are signed off work at the moment, who don't need to work. Perhaps we could start at home before importing new workers.
Well, I would have thought so. I mean, in places like Manchester and Liverpool, there are 1 in 5 people of working age not doing any work. Do we really need to import foreign labour? Interesting. I'd like to hear what you think. Do send in your views to us. And, of course, we will be covering both the Labour Party conference next weekend and the Conservative Party conference the weekend after. So stay tuned for all our coverage.
Well, still to come on Saturday Morning Live.
It's important for the next generation to know what's keeping them safe, to know where the nuclear deterrent came from, because it is a part of history, and no part of history should be airbrushed out.
More than 100 nuclear test veterans come together for their annual reunion, made possible by GB News viewers. We'll all hear their stories, and we're keeping an eye on developments at Heathrow after disruption has been reported at airports across Europe this morning.
You're watching Saturday Morning Live only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a beautiful first half of the month for southern Europe, it now changes, with Western Europe turning unsettled, heavy rain and thunderstorms turning up, but we keep the dry and warm weather across Greece into Cyprus, as well as Italy. In fact, Italy is likely to turn hotter over the next few days, but you can see the band of rain and thunderstorms moving into parts of France, as well as northern parts of Spain and Portugal. Cooler winds blow here as well, with a drop in temperatures compared with the last few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Good morning, Graham. What's your view on the latest comments about the gender of the next James Bond? Should there be one?
Well, there obviously should be a James Bond, but it should never be a woman. I think this is something that was in the media and the press some years ago that's kind of been dragged up to a degree. It's a nonsense. It was a nonsense when it was first spoken about some years ago, and it's just as big a nonsense now. It needs to be a 6 foot tall, dark-haired, strapping, middle-aged guy. I say middle, I mean talking about 32.
Graham, he's quite young in my book.
Well, but I mean, look, Graham, what I say is that you know, a lot of these. I mean, I know Amazon, I believe, have bought the rights to James Bond now. I mean, you've seen what they've done with some of their other shows. I'm not so convinced they're not going to go down this super woke, what I would call woke route. Is it? Do they really need to reinvent James Bond though? Because we've had so many iterations of him. They pretty much killed him off in the last movie. Do we need to reinvent the idea of James Bond, or should James Bond just retire? Should we say, actually, do you know what? We've had James Bond for almost 100 years. Actually, should we let this character rest for at least a bit of time, or maybe just retire the character before it gets destroyed by modern reinventions of it?
Well, I think there's always going to be a market. There's always going to be an audience for James Bond if those films are made the correct way. I mean, you've got a perfect blueprint. If you look at the Bond films in the 60s, and you follow that as a blueprint, you can't go wrong, because most of them are based on Ian Fleming, and it's the best Bond films are the ones that are based on Fleming's books quite closely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. A nice story here for you. Last year, you, the GB News viewers, raised almost £50,000 for Britain's nuclear test veterans to have their annual reunion.
Thanks to your kind donations, this week more than 100 of those veterans came together in Weston-super-Mare to catch up and renew their fight for answers about the tests they were witnesses to in the 1950s and 1960s.
Our national reporter Jack Carson went along.
There's a big, thick black line hurtling toward you from 20 miles away. It hits you. It burns you. It throws you into the ground like a piece of rag doll.
Brian Unthank is just one of the thousands who were witnesses to Britain's nuclear bomb tests, exposed to radiation without protection. Today, veterans like Brian and Terry and their families live with the untold consequences of their service.
Yeah, I was a gummy child at the age of 20. I'd lost all of them within 3 months of coming back from Christmas Island. I have another granddaughter now at the age of 9. Her teeth are crumbling like chalk.
Lots of skin cancers, of course. My own son can't have children. He's got multiple DVTs, and he's also got lung problems, and teeth problems as well, which are symptoms of what we've been going through. It's all going through the genes.
But out of all of that has come a family of veterans and descendants who are determined to get answers. At their annual reunion in Weston-super-Mare, it's a chance for them to catch up with friends and renew their fight for justice. Thanks to the generous donations from GB News viewers, more than 130 people were able to attend. This year particularly marks a huge step in the push for more education in schools about the tests, with the launch of a book and online resources. Alan Owen is the founder of the campaign group Lab Rats International, who organised the event.
What we want is to be able to get a copy of the book into every secondary school in the UK. That's our goal. It's a high goal. There's a lot of secondary schools in the UK, but that's our goal. And we're going to start with the pilot in Swansea and build it out from there. And then there'll be another event in Manchester in November, where again we'll move it out. And the idea is that this book will be in every school in the UK within the next few years. That's what we're aiming for.
For descendant, actor and campaigner Steve Pearce, it's a chance to ensure future generations know about the tests and their impact.
We had a programme. We invented our own weapons. We tested our own weapons. And that is how we have got a British nuclear deterrent. Very, very few people realise that. And it's an important for the next generation to know what's keeping them safe, to know where the nuclear deterrent came from, because it is a part of history, and no part of history should be airbrushed out.
For the Veterans' Night of Entertainment, it's a tradition everyone dresses up in Hawaiian shirts and takes part in some Kiribati dancing, seen on Christmas Island, where many of the tests took place. And as their night draws to a close, there's just one thing left to say.
Thank you, GB News!
Jack Carson, GB News, Weston-super-Mare.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jack Carson. And thank you, too, to the GB News viewers. What an amazing reunion for those veterans.
And make sure you tune into Britain's Newsroom at 9:30 on Monday, because Andrew and Miriam will be joined by some of the veterans that Jack was with just there in the studio here in London to discuss their campaign.
Well, thank you so much to all of you at home for joining us on Saturday Morning Live today. But don't go anywhere, as Dawn Neeson is up with the weekend. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that's going to be a great programme, more coming from Lib Dem conference, and also more on those small boat crossings. We'll have all the latest across all the breaking news here in Britain. But first, here's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Some particularly heavy rain over the next 24 hours or so, with some flooding expected in some places. A weather warning is in place, and it's all courtesy of this area of low pressure that's going to be tracking its way northeastwards across central parts of the UK through the day on Saturday. On the backward side of the area of low pressure, the isobars will tighten together, so it will also turn very windy for some of us later today as well. But back to this afternoon, and it's northern England and Wales that's seeing the heaviest and most persistent rains, so an increasing chance of some flooding on the roads and some travel disruption later today. Some rain also across more southern counties of the UK as well. A mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for Northern Ireland and Scotland, but here some pretty strong blustery northerly winds, so feeling wherever you are much cooler compared to yesterday. Now, as we focus into this evening, there will be a let-up in the rain across some southern areas of the UK. So South Wales and southern parts of England might see some early evening sunshine, but very heavy rain across parts of northern England and North Wales. So it's here where we're likely to see the risk of some travel disruption. A brighter end to the day for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but there will still be plenty of blustery showers, and it will feel chilly in that northerly breeze. That heavy rain, though, across northern England could cause further issues as we go into this evening and to the first part of the night. And we could also see some strong gusty winds as that rain clears, potentially even severe gales, particularly on the east coast of Lincolnshire and down towards Norfolk for a time through the early hours. A fairly cool night to come wherever you are, though, but turning drier, temperatures perhaps even in Scotland falling down cold enough to give a touch of frost in some rural areas. But Sunday does promise to be a lot drier compared to on Saturday. For many of us, there will be some showers in parts of South Wales and southern England through the morning in particular, and quite cloudy here. Heavy and blustery showers actually across northern Scotland, and with those strong, keen northerly winds, it will feel particularly chilly for the time of year here, with temperatures widely below average.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello, good afternoon. It's midday on Saturday the 20th of September, and this is the weekend on GB News.
Struck the returns arrangement with France, and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days.
Challenges, yes. More than 1,000 migrants in and 3 out. The partial migrant returns deal with France is now in action, kind of. And one people smuggler has said today that the UK must deport 2,000 a week to stop small boats. We'll get the latest on that story for you. And European airports, including Heathrow, are warning of delays after a technical issue affected check-in and boarding systems, with Brussels Airport claiming it's a cyber attack. Stay tuned to find out more on that. And this is brilliant. Sir Ed Davey has made a pledge today to stop the boat and take on Reform UK as the Liberal Democrat conference gets underway in Bournemouth, when he kicked off the show, as you can see on your screens now, with a marching band. And protesters from the Make Them Pay Alliance are demanding the government implements a tax on the super rich to fund public services in a march through the capital today. Meanwhile, Donald Trump signs 2 executive orders overnight aimed at raising billions of dollars through the high visa fees for companies seeking to hire foreign workers to get companies to hire Americans. Do you think we should do the same, though? And find out why some people on the right are coming out in support of the late-night talk show comedian Jimmy Kimmel in America, who has been suspended from broadcasting. And from the Thomas Skinner fiasco to acts being announced and then dropping out, Strictly Come Dancing is back tonight. But it's, of course, not without its controversy. We'll be going through all of this year's Strictly scandals. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. So thank you so much for your company this Saturday lunchtime. As I always say, I really appreciate, because I know how busy weekends are for you all. And if you are out and about, so much to pack into your weekend. We are on the radio and on your laptops, on your phones. As I said, there is no escape, because this show is all about you and your views. So please do get in touch. gbnews.com/your say about everything we're talking about, and there is a lot to get through. It's absolutely packed. Or anything you want to have a chat about. Maybe you're feeling a bit lonely and want to have a chat. Well, I'm here for you. gbnews.com/your say and join in our conversation. But before we get stuck into today's story, let's get the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB Newsroom. Estonia has requested a meeting with other NATO members after Russian warplanes violated its airspace. 3 planes flew over Estonia for 12 minutes without permission before being intercepted by NATO fighter jets. The military alliance has condemned the move as reckless behaviour, with the country's foreign minister branding it an unprecedented and brazen intrusion. But Moscow denies the claims, saying its aircraft were making a planned flight over neutral waters in the Baltic Sea. Tensions are rising between NATO and Russia after Poland and Romania also reported incursions in recent days. US President Donald Trump was asked by reporters about the incident.
I'm going to have to look at it. They're going to be briefing me in a short while, so I'll let you know about it tonight or tomorrow.
What's your take in general?
Well, I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't like it when that happens. It could be big trouble.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's president says Russia fired 40 missiles and nearly 600 drones overnight. 3